Hey guys, welcome back to Cruising Through China, where I'm dedicated to showing you what China is like on the ground instead of just telling you so you can decide for yourself. Well, today I might be just telling you a little bit because this video is going to be a little different from my other videos for a few reasons. One, because I got this new camera that is looking really good, and I think showing you the best quality video is important to showing you exactly what I see every day living in China. Another reason is because I'm actually riding a bike on this Greenway that stretches 100 kilometers circling my city. And I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to try out this camera, especially on such a beautiful day. But the topic I'm going to be discussing is why you probably wouldn't ever visit China. And I'm going to start by quoting the late and great Anthony Bourdain. The one thing I know for sure about China is I will never know China. It's too big, too old, too diverse, and too deep, and there's simply not enough time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not here to tell you China is a perfect country. And I'm not the person trying to get your sympathy about why I live in China, nor the person to explain China's rise in absolute terms. I'm simply here to pose the idea that China is worth a closer look for so many reasons. And that is why I've actually done myself. At the very least, it is worth visiting China once in your life to see the physical evidence of a country and society that has undergone a meteoric rise in half a century. Maybe I know what you've already seen. Videos on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, or X telling you the harsh realities of people living here. The stories of people who have lost hope with society, the stories of repressed religious minorities, or left behind Gen Z graduates, or the leftover women that desperately seek individualistic sentiment in an ideologically group oriented society. Maybe it is the authoritarian regime that has made everyone's life more difficult and nobody's life better in the process. Maybe it is the manufacturing jobs that have been accrued here, sending products back to your country, making greater profits. And in the future, the manufacturing of batteries, solar panels, and EVs that makes your blood boil. Maybe it is the ideological frustration that China is not a democracy in name, or its people do not choose its leadership. Maybe it is the threat that China poses to Western allies or democratic values. Maybe it is the surveillance state and lack of free press that hinders the freedom in your veins. Maybe it is the Belt and Road Initiative, where China is peddling money and infrastructure for government influence and preferential treatment from countries around the world. Maybe it is because you simply don't understand the language, and therefore the thoughts of the Chinese people and their actions and reactions. These ideas are no secrets. These ideas you believe that hold China accountable for its actions. However, this media pouring into your mind is a lot more dangerous to your sanity than you might be prepared to experience. Even videos with millions of views do not reflect the absolute truth of what China is, but the absolute curiosity of what is unknown about China. I will pose one idea. China knows a lot more about you than you know about China. In the last half century, China has sent hundreds of thousands of students to study in Western universities. The US, the UK, Australia, and Canada, to name a few. China has mandated English for at least 13 years of education for each of its students. How many words do you know in Chinese? China has played the game of manufacturing for massive Western corporations. Do you believe they wouldn't learn a thing or two from how these businesses were run and how they turned profits? Another idea: China has endured hardship for a long time. The people know what it means to reach the lowest of the low. Do you think they would ever wish to return to those times? I came to China with two goals in my mind: to learn Chinese and to understand Chinese culture. We have known for a long time the rise of China, but what we couldn't understand or accept was how they would do it and why they would do it so quickly. So, this is how I assessed my future and sought this opportunity because I believe so many thought it was so beneath them to understand a culture that was so very far away. China is roughly the same land mass as the US, with 4.5 times the population. How can 1.4 billion people be ignored in obscurity, or at the very least misunderstood for so long? And in all the frustration, it is hard to deny China is actually a great place to be. Thriving, vivid, extraordinary, Chinese people are enthusiastic about their country through the rich context of history and the prospect of an unbeatable future. But to know that truth, you would have to understand them. To understand them, you would have to know them. To know them, you would have to meet them. To meet them, you would have to visit them. And to visit them, you would have to step foot in their country and acknowledge them. What you wouldn't know is that Chinese people thrive on the idea of face. And face means how others perceive them. They thrive off knowing that foreigners accept their ways, their society, their culture, and their wishes for mutual harmony. You wouldn't reconcile these differences because you wouldn't know them. You wouldn't visit China because you are afraid of what you would find. Cities, infrastructure, and systems that work in more advanced and sophisticated ways than they do in your own country. Places that have existed for thousands of years are still standing. Prices that are affordable to the average person. Safety and security incomparable to any other country in the world. And an openness that is willing to accept foreigners, though maybe misguided at times, but nonetheless accessible. They will tell you every reason why China is a bad place. But you cannot understand China in a single video. You cannot accept what they say without knowing the truth for yourself. And that is the point of this video. Seeing with your own eyes and knowing the truth with your own five senses is the only evidence you will ever need. And everything else has been curated to tangle you in an attempt to obstruct your own clarity of vision. If you give China a chance, then maybe you could step outside of the idea that a single perspective can be considered the truth. Multiple perspectives piece together this single reality. And if you've never visited China in your life, then everything they have said to control what you think has worked.